Today we're going to be looking at two budget carving hatchets and see how well they perform for spoon carving. So previously I did a video where I was talking about the things that I look for in a carving hatchet, but I realized that the carving hatchets I look at tend to be kind of high end. My current favorite carving hatchet is the Kautoff small carver, and I think if you were to buy that now it would be about $300. For me, I do quite a lot of carving, and so that's good value for a tool that I'm going to use for like thousands of hours. But if you're just starting out, or you're working on a budget, or spoon carving is just a thing that you do occasionally, then perhaps you don't want to spend that much on an axe. So that sent me on a little journey looking for good budget carving hatchets. And I set out looking for it with two criteria. So the first was the price, had to be budget, so I set a price limit of $100. And then the second criteria was that it had to be good for carving. So there had to be characteristics about it that would make it a good carving hatchet, or at least it was advertised as a carving hatchet. And in my search, I could only find two that met that criteria. We have the AX1 axe from BeaverCraft, and we have the, what are you called? The craft axe from Greenhaven Forge. So both of these advertise themselves as carving hatchets, and they're each under $100. So I was kind of surprised by that. One of the reasons why I limited it to axes that advertise themselves as carving hatchets is that there's a lot of hatchets under $100 that are more general purpose hatchets. And Andy Spoons, you should go follow his channel. He did a really good video where he bought a hardware store hatchet, and he concluded that even though it was a nice axe, it wasn't well suited for carving. You should watch his video, but essentially he found out that the grind wasn't very good. He had to re-grind it to make it a good carving hatchet, and that's not something I think we should be asking of a beginner. So if you're a beginner, I think it's unfair to say, hey, this is a good axe, but you need to regrind it. So I'm going to be testing to see out of the box how good these two hatchets are at carving. So let's start with the Greenhaven Forge craft axe. Let's look at some of the vital statistics of it. So first off, the length, it is about 14 inches, hair over that long. The edge, that is about 4 inches. So good proportion so far. Weight, so all in about 740 grams. So a nice weight, around 700 grams is a great weight for a beginner hatchet. Okay, I haven't used this axe yet, so let's see how sharp it is out of the box. It's 161 grams, that is very sharp. And so this cost $70 with the sheath, and it was about $10 shipping. So all in, under $100 to arrive at my door. Let's have a look at the vital statistics of the BeaverCraft A1. So this also comes with a sheath. It also comes with a little belt holster, which if you're carving spoons, this is essentially useless. I'm not interested in it anyway. This is about 11.5 inches long. The edge, that is about a 3-inch edge. So also still a nice edge. Overall dimensions are smaller than the Greenhaven craft hatchet. Let's see how heavy she is. 734 grams, so a pretty comparable weight there. Okay, I also haven't used this one, so let's see how sharp it is out of the box. $596 grams, so definitely nowhere near as sharp as the Greenhaven one, but probably still sharp enough to carve with, maybe. Not an edge I'm super happy with anyway. So in almost every dimension, the Greenhaven axe is larger, but they are more or less the same weight. So you're gonna get more utility out of this longer hatchet because the longer handle gives you a little bit more leverage, so you can swing it a little harder with less effort than the shorter handle. Both of them, they have kind of okay handles. The grain orientation on both of them is really good. You want those growth rings to be more or less like in line with your axe head, and they both do a pretty good job of that. So that's going to give you the maximum strength out of the wood. So that's nice to see. A lot of hardware store axes, that grain orientation can be all over the place. It doesn't make a huge difference for carving hatchets, just because we're not swinging them in the same way that you are felling axes, but it's still nice to see. After doing the vital statistics, it is a little concerning to see just how blunt the BeaverCraft one is. I would probably want to sharpen that before carving. The Greenhaven Forge razor sharp, that's as sharp as I would get my axes, so that'd be ready to go. Neither of them have like a super pronounced swell on the end of the handle, so it's got a nice kind of swell in this this orientation. On the BeaverCraft it's subtle, but it's still there. More premium axes, they tend to be kind of wider at the bottom here in this orientation as well, and it just stops your hand from slipping off as you're adjusting your grip on it. This handle is super wide just before it enters the axe head, so if you want to choke up, so get your fingers behind the edge, which is nice for doing detail work, it's a little less comfortable on the BeaverCraft one than it is the Greenhaven axe. So you've still got a little bit of an increase, but it's not quite so dramatic as that BeaverCraft one. So Greenhaven Forge, as far as I'm aware, they buy in the axes and then they apply a hollow grind. So you've got a flat over hollow here, and that's the same kind of grind that I have on my axes. The BeaverCraft one, it is a convex grind, and I'll talk a little bit about why that's less than ideal in a moment, but that might be more for the kind of bushcraft crowd. BeaverCraft do advertise this as a compact bushcraft carving hatchet for various tasks and purposes, apparently. So even though it has carving in the name, I think they might just be aiming this for the slightly bigger bushcraft market than the spoon carving market. We do exist, but there's not quite as many of us. First impressions, I'm preferring the Greenhaven Craft Axe, but let me just explain why a convex grind isn't my favorite for carving. So if we're looking down on the top of the BeaverCraft axe, we're seeing an edge that's shaped like this. It's got this curve that goes towards the cutting edge. So this is where all of the action is. Convex grind, typically used to be quite a strong edge. The downside to a convex edge is that you've got this kind of shoulder that lifts the edge away from the wood that we're trying to carve into. So if we've got a piece of wood and we're trying to carve into it, that shoulder's gonna hit the wood, lifting the edge away from it. So we do need to adjust the angle that the axe goes into the wood in order to carve into it. So we might have to carve downwards at a bit of a steeper angle than if we had a flat grind. So if we've got a flat grind or a hollow, flat over hollow like the Greenhaven Forge does, so that will have a flat over a hollow. So this is exaggerated, but if we're looking down the top of the Greenhaven craft axe, you've got this hollow that's been ground out and then a little flat has been put on just to give it a little extra strength. And so now we've got the shoulders, or if it's a fully flat one, we've got the whole length of the bevel to kind of act as a guide when we're trying to cut into wood. And so it's a lot easier to figure out what angle you need to hold the axe at in order for it to engage with the wood compared to a convex grind. As a beginner, you're going to have more glancing blows, and we'll try that out in a moment. with a convex grind compared to something like what the Greenhaven has. So at the moment, I would say that the Greenhaven axe on paper seems like the better carving hatchet than the BeaverCraft one, but let's try it out. Okay, I've got 2 pieces of river birch here, more or less the same size. I'm going to rough out a spoon with each of the axes, and I will provide some commentary as I go. So let's start with the BeaverCraft AX1. Oh, but where is it? So I'm already feeling it glance a little bit, so when it's moving, it kind of goes in like this and then moves down. It's biting, but there we are, that was a glance. Where if this were a flat grind, that would be more or less the right angle for me to cut into it, but I need to go a little bit steeper. There we are. Yep. So when I start cleaning off and I want a nice flat surface, I like to get a shaving going and leaving it attached, and that acts as a guide to help pull the axe in to exactly the last spot I got to. With the axe glancing a lot, it's a lot harder to keep that shaving going. It not being as sharp as I would perhaps like it is also perhaps a reason why it's glancing so much. Whoa. That was me, not the axe. So with it being blunt, it's a fair amount of effort. If this were the axe I had gotten for myself, with the experience I have now, I would sharpen this. But if you're just starting out in spoon carving, buying an axe and then immediately being expected to sharpen it, I think is a bit unfair. You should definitely learn how to sharpen, but if you're all excited, you just bought an axe, you want to be able to use it. You know what, funnily enough, I think I'm going to stop there because this isn't that much fun. Let's move on to the Greenhaven craft axe. See if that's any better. Or does this fit? Oh yeah, snazzy. Okay, already a marked difference. So this bites a lot better. So these cuts up the side, they're just like relief cuts. They make it a bit easier to then shave the material off. Working down to about 3/4 of the way up. Working up from the bottom until about 3/4 of the way up. And then if you want to get fancy, you can clean it off. It's a slightly longer handle than what I'm used to, so sometimes when I'm choking up towards the axe head here, the end of the handle is hitting my thigh a little bit. So I don't know how well this will show up. Not well at all. So there's what looks like a scratch along here, and so it's not a scratch into the wood, it's where material hasn't been removed, because I think the edge has picked up a slight chip in it, very small. When you have a thinner sharpening angle, it's sharper. It's going to feel sharper than a wider one, but a wider one will resist damage a little bit more. These kind of like micro chips, these very small bits of damage, are something that I kind of just get used to with the carving tools that I've got. They happen on even my much more expensive axes, so while it's not ideal, it is kind of unavoidable with the very fine edge that gets put on these carving hatchets. So I think the axe is probably my favorite spoon carving tool. You get the most dramatic change. You go from essentially a log, so something that still very much looks like a tree, and you can get down to pretty close to what the final form of your spoon will be. I think a lot of people don't appreciate what a fine precision tool an axe can be. It does take practice, but it's not just for like splitting wood and felling trees. It's possible to get pretty close to where you want. I like to say that the ideal is that you get your spoon blank down to where all you're doing with the knife is removing the axe marks. You're not really doing any heavy shaping with the knife. If you're a beginner, it's difficult to explain just how much more effort removing wood with a carving knife is compared to a hatchet. So in the classes that I've taught, people will do the axe work, they'll move on to the knife, and then they'll move back to the axe just because they realize they can take it a little bit further with a lot less effort. So having a good hatchet really is a key part of enjoying spoon carving. Right, so with the BeaverCraft axe, got it to about where I want it to be. Let's do some final remarks. Before I reveal which one's my favorite, I do want to give an honorable mention to Robin Wood's Wood Tools hatchets. So as you can probably tell by my accent, I'm based in Wisconsin, USA. But Wood Tools is based in the UK in Sheffield, and they do some really good budget carving hatchets, but with the exchange rate and shipping, it would make them more than $100 US. So they didn't quite make the cut for the criteria of this test. But if you're on the other side of the pond, they're a really good option that's worth trying out. So obviously I gave up on the BeaverCraft one. It just wasn't fun for me. And so if you're a beginner, it's going to be super frustrating. The Greenhaven Forge Craft Axe was the clear winner, especially considering when they're both more or less the same price. I think what I will try and do is put a flat over hollow on this and see if it performs any better. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to check that out. Were there any axes that I overlooked? I could only find these two that fit my criteria of being under $100 and advertised as carving hatchets. If there are other axes out there, then please let me know. I would love to hear about them. You can drop them in the comments so people can find them. What did you think of the test? I'd love to get some feedback on this. I'm having fun making these videos. Feedback from you would be great to let me know what it is you'd like to see. If there are any other tools you want me to review or techniques you want me to show, just let me know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this, subscribe. If not, then say something hurtful in the comments. It's YouTube.